If standing for God meant losing everything you had, would you still stand? Because that's what Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they went through. If your future was on the line, if your job was on the line, if everything come at you and you lost everything you had, would you still stand for God? You know, Job fought through that, lost everything he had. He ended up using, I think, a plate to scratch the boils off, and his wife come out there and said, why don't you just cuss God and die? And he called her, told her she was foolish, naked he come in this world, naked he's going to come out. But nobody enjoys testing. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they got tested right here. But testing is necessary. Testing refines you. When you're in the fire, it refines you. Our trials are tested, our commitment to God. Everyone faces a moment when they must choose. Okay? You have to go through a test. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they went through a test and they got promoted. You went through the fire. It's rough. God brought you out of it. Probably got more than you ever had now, don't you? That's the way what happened to Job. He lost everything and he had a whole lot more when he passed away. So, what we run into in our life and back in the Bible days is, sometimes we got to make a stand. We bow to pressure, or do we stand for God? Our faith is a big part of whether you bow to pressure or you stand for God. We're going to talk about the three Hebrew children, but ask yourselves as we go through this message, if the heat got turned up 7 times hotter, would you still stand? We say that we would, but would we? If you put yourself in that situation, before we get started, I'm going to get ahead of myself, but if the heat was turned up 7 times hotter and you was standing before the king, would you bow and worship that golden image, or would you let him throw you in that fire pit? It's easy to say yes standing here, but I hope my faith is strong enough to say, I'm going to serve God. I'm not bowing here an image. This kill me. Let's go to Daniel 3:1. Anybody want to read that verse? The statue was enormous. It was about 90 feet high and about 9 foot wide. Imagine standing before something that huge that says open plain. Well, open plain is probably, I'm just going to say something like a desert. There's nothing else, but that image is going to be right in the middle, and it's going to be seen from a distance. And the purpose of it was intimidation. So we know this plain was wide open. You could see it for miles from what I read. So the question I asked myself is, why did Nebuchadnezzar choose to build that statue out of gold? Well, when you start looking into gold, gold represents wealth, glory, beauty, and power. And that's what he was after. It's just like the devil. The devil can paint a pretty picture. All kinds of stuff. having to beat this thing down to even move. I'm reading the Bible, I feel a lot of my notes. You actually learn here. All right, guys, we'll try it again. So we know the devil can paint a pretty picture, but he can deliver a peaceful future. Amen. Satan made Babylon look beautiful, powerful, and successful. The golden image looked impressive. The music sounded good. The crowd was bowing. Everything about it looked attractive on the outside. But behind the beauty was bondage, fear, and destruction, and false worship. So that's what the devil does. He'll paint a pretty picture on the outside, and on the inside, everything's deceiving. Verse 2 says, Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent together the princes, the governors, and the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of province to come to the dedication of the image with Nebuchadnezzar, the king that had set up. So after building the golden image, Nebuchadnezzar calls on all the important leaders, the officials of Babylon, to attend this dedication ceremony. So what he wanted to do is he wanted to show it off, okay? So one way to show it off, one way to get everybody coming was get the political leaders involved, okay? Which would end up being like a worship ceremony, but it ended up being a false worship ceremony because he wanted them to bow down and worship the golden image. It was a public display of submission to the king. The king sends out a command. This shows his authority in this verse. When he sends out this command, they start coming. And in Babylon, when the king spoke, people obeyed. When you read in this King Nebuchadnezzar, when he spoke, people obeyed. They moved. So look how Nebuchadnezzar targeted leadership. He wanted every one of the government, every position of influence, and every leader in Babylon at the dedication, which means setting apart. A dedication means setting apart. So, reason being, if leadership bows, a lot of people follow. Okay? When somebody high on a horse is empowered, you'll have people follow. Whether they're right or wrong or indifferent. Hey, we see it every day, and we see it in politics. So we're bringing politics and religion in today, so don't nobody get mad. So a lot of people will follow people just out of ignorance. And ignorance we know is not knowing. But just like a lot of people will follow presidents, just like people follow Nebuchadnezzar because they got so much power and they got so much money that they do it out of fear, especially when they start getting up in politics. That's why you see a lot of Republicans and Democrats go back to back with each other, arguing and fighting, but because a lot of it's about power and a lot of it's about money. So we go to verse 3. It says, Then the prince, the governors, and the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all